This video is brought to you by the generous support of my patrons. This month, our patron request analysis is the Dragon Age Origins theme, requested by Kyle Downs. If you'd like to request a song for a future analysis, please check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/ongakuconcept. Dragon Age Origins is a 2009 RPG by BioWare. Today we're looking at the main theme of the game, created by Israeli-American composer Enon Zur. Zur has quite an impressive backlog, including TV series like Digimon and Power Rangers, as well as games like Crysis and the Fallout series. Let's get into it. The main theme of Origins begins in the key of E minor and is set in common time. Given the dark tone of the game, a minor key makes sense here. Minor keys tend to come across as more serious than major keys do. Texturally, this piece is dominated by strings and brass, as is common in Western RPG soundtracks, but there are a couple elements which add a unique touch that I'll mention as we go along. Perhaps the biggest thing to note about this piece is its use of motifs. I've discussed motifs on this channel several times in the past, but one thing holds true: they are essential to musical storytelling. This piece opens up softly with a horn melody, moving up a perfect fourth from B to E, and then climbing up the scale in a rhythmically simple fashion. To my ears, this is a very hopeful melody, and we'll see how that interacts as we move along. The A section introduces a new vocal melody. This is one of the unique aspects that I mentioned before. While vocals are not uncommon in music of this sort, they typically serve as background elements, so to have one take the stage to sing the melody gives this section a very personal connection. I didn't want that to rhyme. The horns providing counter melodies between the vocal lines shouldn't be overlooked. You might notice that C# shows up a few times. This comes from the Dorian Mode. The Dorian Mode is a fantastic scale for providing some middle-age flavor to the music, as it was a primary mode for composition during that time period. It's nice to see it used subtly here. To discuss the harmony for a moment, I find it particularly interesting that Zur held back from using very driving harmonic movements until the latter half of the verse, where we get C and D climbing up their way to E minor. One last note about the verse before we continue: most of these phrases end on an F#. This is very important in setting the tone for this section. Being the second degree of the scale, it sits in limbo between two much stronger notes, E and G, which allows this F# to present a mysterious uncertainty. This uncertainty proves to be well-founded as we move into the B section, where things take a dark turn. Here we are greeted with our next motif, a theme of looming darkness. Played harshly by the brass, we see F# stressed once again, and a new B flat added to heighten the dissonance. The melody from the verse section returns, seemingly taken captive by the evil. Unquestionably, things are sounding grim, but where evil abounds, good will always rise to counter it. As this intensity suddenly drops, we find an old friend rise up once more. The melody of hope we heard in the introduction has come along to free our captive hero. I'd also like to take a moment to note the shakuhachi, an ancient Japanese instrument providing a unique texture to this section. However, the forces of evil don't seem too happy about this disturbance, and they return with a greater force than before. Up high on the strings, we find a distorted version of our melody of hope, locked in combat, until suddenly it breaks free in a modulation to the key of A minor, using E minor as a pivot chord. Finally, things have taken a decisive turn for the better. Our hope flourishes, creating a long, winding melody that builds on and embellishes the initial motif. However, even in victory, we cannot allow ourselves to grow too confident. In a jarring movement from E flat to G minor, and then E to A minor, we are brought back around to the marching rhythm of the Melody of Darkness as a reminder that our work is not over yet, and the game begins. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this analysis. If you'd like to request one, you can check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/ongakuconcept. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.